Hi fashion lovers, you're welcome to another interesting video. In today's tutorial, we are going to be learning how to make this beautiful asymmetric bustier that has asymmetric hem, just like what you are seeing on the screen. It is very easy and simple to make. If it is something you want to learn, you need to keep watching this video. Don't forget to give me a big thumbs up, like, share and subscribe. Thank you. Let's get started. To get started, I have my pattern paper here, and as you can see, it is on fold. So I'm going to start by drafting the front part. So I've marked 1 inch as the starting point, and from my starting point line, you want to go ahead and mark your vertical measurement from shoulder to your chest line. You mark from shoulder to the bust point. You mark from shoulder to your under bust. Mark from shoulder to your waist line, and then the full length of your top. So at this point, I stopped at my waistline. So I have my bust point, chest line, bust point, under bust, and waistline. So I'll just go ahead and mark the length I want. So from my waistline, I came down by 7 inches. I'm going to rule a line. So from the waistline, I came down by, I used 8 inches instead. I came down by 8 inches from my waistline because the top is a bit long. So I used 8 inches. From the waistline to the length is 8 inches. So on the shoulder line, you want to go ahead and mark half of your shoulder measurement. And also on the chest line, mark half of your shoulder measurement. Come down by 1.5 inches for your front shoulder slope. Then connect your armhole line. Then mark 3 inches on your shoulder, and then go ahead and mark your shoulder slope like this. So the next thing I want to do is to mark my bust. My bust is 35 inches, but I normally make use of 36 inches. So for the front bust, I use 19 and the back bust 17. So by the time you add your 19 inches and your 17 inches, you are going to be having 36 inches. So my front bust is usually bigger, so I add more inches on the front bust. So that 19 inches, I will divide it by 2, and that is what I'm going to mark on my chest line. And then you go up by 3 inches on your chest line to connect your armhole circumference. So if you don't want to use this method, you can just go ahead and divide your bust into 4 and mark. But for me, I like adding more inches to the front bust because the bust is at the front. So I'll go ahead and label chest line, bust point, under bust, waistline, and the full length. So you want to come to your under bust and mark your nipple to nipple measurement. Mark on the bust point and also on the waistline. Divide your nipple to nipple measurement and mark. You can also mark on the length, and then you connect with a straight line. So for the dress you are working with, if you check the dress, the dart was redirected, like it's not straight. So the dart on the dress was slanted, but mine is going to be straight, so I want mine to be straight. So if you don't want your own dart to be straight, you can redirect it and make it slanted. So what I will do is on my under bust, I will mark towards the center front, I'll mark 3/4 of an inch, and towards the side front, I'll mark 1.25, making the dart 2 inches. So I'm using 2 inches as my dart, but towards the center front, I mark 3/4 of an inch, and towards the side seam, I marked 1.25. So but on the length, I marked ½ inch on both sides. on the length I marked ½ inch on both sides, and this that I have on the waistline is the same thing on the under bust. So you want to come down by 3/4 of an inch to connect your dart like this. Did you see that? So after that, you want to get the midpoint of your shoulder, and then you want to get a straight line to the bust point line. So the next thing you want to do is to contour your over bust. We want to go ahead and contour our over bust. So I'm going to be coming down by 4.5 inches for my bustier. So I'm going to be marking 3/4 of an inch on both sides. So from that shoulder line, I came down by 4.5 and I marked 0.75 inch on both sides for the contouring of my bust, and I contoured it like this. Did you see? But if you are a plus size person, you can use 1 inch on both sides, not 0.75. You can use 1 inch on both sides. So the next thing is to connect this, like my bustier, to the armhole, but you are connecting it to like forming a new armhole now. Did you see that? You are just connecting and forming a new armhole. So the next thing is, for this one, I'm going to be marking the neckline from what we have, from the dress we are working with. But for the neckline, I will just make it a bit straight. You know, this is going to be asymmetric. One side is more curvier than the other side, so that is why I left the neckline straight like this. So we'll just get back to it. So on the waistline, you mark 1/4 of your waist circumference plus the dart intake, and also on the down part, you're going to mark 1/4 of your upper hip circumference plus the dart intake. Add back your dart intake, and then you want to go ahead and connect your side seam. So what I wanted to do is to kind of blend my bustier. Try to blend the bustier very well. So on the chest line, you check and know if you have any dart intake, like if you have any dart intake on the chest line. If you don't have, you can just add 0.5 inch on your chest line just for ease. 0.5 inch for ease on the chest line, and then you want to go ahead and connect. But if you have that intake, maybe the space in between there is ½ inch, 1 inch, please replace it back. But that intake we took on the chest line, like on the upper part here, we're not going to be replacing it. It's called the upper bodice tightening. So I'm not going to be replacing the 1.5 inches, which is 0.75 on both sides. On the upper bust, it is called the upper bust tightening. So I'm not going to be replacing it back. So after we're done, this is what we have so far. Can you see that? So I will just go ahead and transfer this to the other side of the pattern. You know, this is going to be asymmetric, so we need the two sides of our pattern. So you want to go ahead and trace it to the other side. So let me just cut this out. So I went ahead to cut out the dart too. So at this point, I forgot to add my bust dart. So I will later add the bust dart. But please, before you cut out your pattern into pieces like this, endeavor to add your bust dart. Please endeavor to add your bust dart. So when I was done, this is what I have. So what I want to do now is to match my pattern. I will use my seal tape and match, like hold the pattern together as if you are sewing it. So I'll just use my seal tape and hold the patterns together, so I'll be able to draft the neckline that we want and also get the asymmetric neckline. So I'll get the neckline we are working with and also get the asymmetric hemline. So at this point, I've sealed the down part. Did you see? I've sealed the down part. Did you see? I started from the under bust to seal to the end. So I will also have to seal the bustier part. So you just have to take your time and seal it up. this is going to help you to get the neckline. So this is what I have, though I didn't seal it up very well. So you just try to like get something to be able to draw out your neckline. So from this part, you want to start drawing out your neckline. Did you see the way I'm going? So you're going to draw it out to the armhole. So from one side of the bustier, you draw like a symmetric neckline to the armhole of the other side. From one side of your bustier, did you see, you draw your neckline till you get to the end of the other armhole. Did you see? So this is how the neckline is going to be. If you don't like it, you can make it more curvier. If you don't like it like this, you can make it more curvier. So at this point, I think I liked this. Think this is okay for me. So I'll just cut it out. So before I cut it out, I'll just separate the pattern again. So at this point, you can also trace your hemming, the hem part of your bustier. You can trace out the hem part of your bustier, but I separated my pattern first. So I separated my pattern first, but you can decide to get your hem, your asymmetric hem part first before separating the pattern. So after separating the pattern, I will go ahead and cut out the neckline now. Go ahead and cut out the neckline. So it was at this point I realized I do not add my bust dart. So my bust dart is 1.5 inches. So from the bust point line, you come down by 1.5 inches to add your bust dart. So I'm going to pair the other pattern now. And trace the bust dart on the other side of the pattern. Please, before you cut out your pattern, please add your bust dart. It is very, very important. So I added bust dart of 1.5 inches, which you are going to be, the back pattern is going to be shortened. So you want to, cut it out or close it up. So did you see now? So I'll continue the cutting of the neckline of the other side. Did you see? So this is how the patterns are going to be. Make sure they align. Try to check it. Did you see? Try to check it. So at this point, I was trying to get the hem part. So if I knew earlier, I wouldn't have separated the pattern. I would have just left it sealed and get my symmetric hem first. But I've separated the pattern. So I will just have to match it up again, either using my seal tape or just making sure it's aligned before getting what I wanted. So the next thing is from the center front, you come down by 4 inches. So this is us trying to get the asymmetric hem. From the center front, come down by 4 inches. This is the center front, and you want to go towards the other side now and mark 1 inch. Did you see? After the center front, mark 1 inch and make a curve. So at this point, I realized that this curve is supposed to be on the other side using the dress we are working with. So I'm going to be correcting that now. So from the center front, come down by 4 inches, and towards this side that the bustier is not asymmetric, you come in by 1 inch from the center front now. Come in by 1 inch on the hem and make a curve like that. So the first line I made is a mistake. That is not where the curve is supposed to be. Did you see? And from this part, you want to come down by like 5 inches towards this side seam. Come down by 5 inches. Did you see that? Come down by 5 inches and make a curve. So after the first line that you make, you made, you want to go in by 1 inch. After the first line you made, go inward by 1 inch on the hem now. Then you keep your curve like this and connect to the side seam. I don't know if you understood. Sorry, at this point it was kind of scattering because my papers are not sealed together. You can go ahead and seal your papers together. So after the first line you make, you go in by 1 inch and make a curve to the side seam. So for the other side now, you come down on the side by 4 inches towards the side seam. Come down by 4 inches from the waist. Keep your curve like this to get that curve of the other side. Keep your curve ruler like this to get the curve. So I'm using my pencil to try out this curve. You have to like try out to draw out your curve to be able to know the one that will suit the dress you're working with. You have to try out different curves till you are satisfied of the curve you want to use. So that is what I'm trying to do at this point. So at this point, I think I like the curve here. So did you see that? So I'll just use my marker pen to highlighten the curve. Did you see? So this part now is where the asymmetric of the upper part is. But towards this side now, there is no asymmetric. Just know how the curve was drawn so you not be confused if you want to achieve exactly the dress you are working with. So this part I'm cutting out is the part that does not have the asymmetric on the upper part. And then towards this side now that I'm cutting now is the part that have the asymmetric on the upper part. Just know how the stuff went so that you not be confused. So after cutting out, this is what I have. Did you see that? So this is actually very easy to do. You just have to be careful and take your time and you get it perfectly well. So this is how mine came out. Did you see? So this is how mine came out. Very easy and simple. So you can just go ahead and fold in your bust start. Then this is going to be the back. Did you see? This is going to be the back. So I've marked my zipper allowance of 1 inch. I've marked my starting point line. So this is going to be my zipper allowance. So the pattern is going to start from the armhole. The pattern is going to start from the chest line. So the back is going to start from the chest line. So this is the chest line. So that straight line, which is going to be the starting point line, is going to be the chest line. So you're going to keep your tape on your chest line to start marking. Keep your tape on the value of your chest line and then mark your back waist line. So my back waist line is 13.5. The front is 15 inches, but the back is 13.5. So after that, you want to go ahead and from the back waistline, mark the 8 inches length that you use for your front. From the front waistline to the length was 8 inches. So from the back waistline to the length will also be 8 inches. So we have marked the waistline and the length. So on the waistline of the back, you come inward by 1 inch to for the zipper tightening or the center back tightening. Then you want to go ahead and mark your dart of 1 inch. Also mark on the darts on the chest line, the waistline and the length. So you want to take ½ inch on both sides for your dart. You can come down by 5 or 6 inches to stop your dart for the back. And on the waistline, you mark 1/4 of your waist measurement plus 1 inch for the zipper tightening and the 1 inch for the dart. And then you mark on your chest line, you mark the bust measurement for the back So my bust measurement for the back is 17 divided by 2. You mark it, and then you want to connect from the bust to, from the chest line to the waistline to the hem part. So for tightening on the back, we want to tighten the back by half an inch on both sides. You want the back to be firm, so on the chest line you do half an inch on both sides. That half an inch on both sides, you're not replacing it back, is your back tightening. It's going to tighten the back, very well for you. So you want to also come down by, on the front side seam, one part we came down by 4 inches, on the other part we came down by 5 inches. So but I just came down by 5 inches on the front, on the side seam. Now please take note of that. So I also went up on the chest line by half an inch. So I'm going to cut this pattern and I'm going to place the front on it to retrace it. So on the front part, I came down on one side of the side seam by 4, on the other side I came down by 5 inches. But for the back, I came down on the side seam by just 5. So I want to just kind of retrace the what I have on the other side on this pattern now, on this side now. So I'm going to place my front pattern on the back to do what? To cut it out. So I'll just first of all close up the zipper allowance like this. Close up the zipper allowance. Use your pin or masking tape to close it up. I'm going to grab my pattern now, placing my pattern right side facing, the right side of the back will face the right side of the front. So but before I do that, you just have to close your bust dart now. So when you close your bust dart, you place the one side of the side seam of the front. Place it well. Did you see? This is me trying to place from the chest line. Make sure it matches on the waistline and then to the length. So wherever it stops, you want to like notch that point. Did you see what I'm doing? I'm making sure the side seam matches together, the waistline matches. Did you see? And then you want to trace where the length stopped and also trace this part. Did you see? So you also want to do the same. Close the bust dart like this and then place your side seam. Did you see? The front side seam will face the back side seam like this. Did you see? So this pattern, this particular one matches with the back side seam. So you are going to use the back to trace the front, so that by the time you are joining the side seam, everything is going to match. So this part now, I'm going to be cutting it out because that is where the front ended. So on this part also, you're going to be also cutting it out. So that half inch that we added on the chest line, we don't need it. I just added it just in case. So I'll just go ahead and cut it out. That half inch we added on the chest line, we'll cut it out. Did you see that? Open up your zipper and then go ahead, trace this neck, the hem part of one, trace the hem part out like this. Then cut in between the darts. And also cut your zipper allowance. So with this now, we are done. So you want to match it up like this so you not be confused. So this is my pattern, right? So you can just label it. So this pattern will be, you're going to place it like this on your fabric and cut it one pieces, one pieces. So I'm marking this arrow to know that this is going to be the up part. So this is my center back, this is my side seam. So I will know that this is what I have. So the side seam and the center back, I'm marking an arrow indicating that that two sides is going to be joined. So you're going to label it just the way you will understand it. Very, very important. And this is the back part of the asymmetric bustier. So you want to go ahead and cut it out on the fabric, add ½ inch on both sides, cut it out on the fabric and add ½ inch on both sides. For the front now, you want to go ahead and add your sewing allowance, and for the front you are also cutting 1 pieces for each of them. 1 pieces. You are not folding, you are not cutting 2 pieces. This is asymmetric, so you are going to be cutting out 1 pieces for each of them. Thank you for watching.